so fortunate to have such an amazing guest with me this morning, Mr. Randy Kelley. Randy Kelley is, wow, I don't even know where to start. He's a former Navy SEAL, author, entrepreneur, investor. He's got a 6th degree in Bujinkan? Bujinkan, which is a martial... Bujinkan. I knew
it's a Japanese battlefield martial art, yes.
Japanese battle martial art. I mean, 6 degrees, so that's like not just 1 black belt, that's like 6 black belts.
Well, it's the 6th degree. I mean, it's 1 black belt, yes, but
it's like the level
it's pretty high up there, yeah.
Wow, so you could, like with the level of kick-ass, you're like a 200 out of 10.
Yeah.
Jeez. So that's why you can see that I'm a little bit nervous for this interview because, I don't want to say the wrong thing because Randy is one of the most impressive guys I've met. So Randy, thanks for coming on. I mean,
it's
I really
my pleasure.
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
So
glad to be here.
I want to start from the beginning because you've written books, you've done businesses, you've got a great family. So take us back in the beginning. Tell us where you're from. Tell us how you got sort of started on your journey of kicking ass, of being driven, of being an entrepreneur and making your life better. So
Sure.
Where you're from and how did you kind of get to that sort of realization of what you needed to do?
Absolutely. The early years aren't that impressive. I grew up in South Florida, near Miami. Older brother. I started.
Palm Beach or
What's that? Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Fort Lauderdale, okay.
To be exact, yeah. So that's where I grew up. I started martial arts and soccer at an early age, probably about 9 years old. Both of those kept me busy all the way through high school. My parents moved up to North Carolina, up in the mountains, up near Asheville, North Carolina.
How old were you when they moved up?
That was in 11th grade, so in high school. So it was a big culture shock going from city boy up to Redneckville, if you will.
In your senior or junior year.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved the area.
No one messed with you because.
Well, no, I was quiet. I was a quiet boy. But once I started playing soccer up there, where I was average in Florida, playing with people from all over South America, going up to North Carolina playing soccer, I was a pretty standout soccer player there. But I did martial arts the whole time. Finished high school there and went to college up in Boone, North Carolina. That's really up in the mountains.
It's called Boone?
It's, the town is called Boone, but the school is called Appalachian State University.
Gotcha.
And it's a great college up there in the up hidden away in the mountains. A lot of hiking and stuff like that. And that's where I really got deeper into the martial arts. Studied economics and business, international business, and a Japanese language too. So.
Oh wow! And you speak Japanese?
Let's say I used to.
Okay.
I haven't lived there for a long time, so my Japanese is pretty rusty. But
oh wow!
Yeah.
And so now you're there in a smaller town. You're going to college, and so talk to us about some of the aha moments where you kind of sort of I would say separated yourself from the majority, where you kind of took a different life path. How did that happen?
It's pretty simple. Most people go to college because they know it's a requirement or to get that degree. I went just to learn about life.
And what did you study?
I studied economics, which is the fundamental question of why people make decisions or how they make decisions, why. So even more so than psychology. Psychology is just what happens in the brain, but economics drives why we make decisions in life. So that's as you can see, even back then I was concerned with the bigger questions of life.
That affect the big picture too.
Exactly. So
and so how was college like?
It was good. I didn't go for the grades,
yeah.
So but I went to learn. So I got B's and C's, which it didn't mean anything to me. But studying with the instructors and with people there and international students really let me see what the world was like and learn from them.
And so you took that skill set of learning, and what did you do with it? How did you kept getting what happened?
So it was a period of deep introspection for me. Once I graduated college, I took a job as a financial planner up in DC. Hated it, absolutely hated it. And then I sat down one day and I wrote down on a piece of paper, what are the things that I like to do, and what can I do making money in those things.
And what were some of the things on that list?
There's 3 things. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, create value in life and for other people. I wanted to be in the CIA because it's go out there and do cool stuff. And the third one was be a Navy SEAL. So I looked at those 3 things. I said I could do business when I'm older. The CIA, well, we'll see about that. But if I'm going to be a Navy SEAL, I better do it while I'm young. So literally the next day, I quit my $80,000 a year job, which at the time, back in the 90s, is good money.
Especially in DC.
Especially right after college. I quit that job, went and signed up at the recruiter, and I said I want to be a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and talk to us about that journey of becoming a Navy SEAL, because, I mean, you know, in military in general, like, where do the Navy SEAls rank? Say someone doesn't know. Where's, like, how does it work?
A Navy SEAL are the special operations community of the Navy. Well known because everything that's hard to do in the military and special operations, when you add the water component, it gets much harder and much worse. So we're the divers, we're the guys who blow stuff up and shoot stuff from a long way away. And the training is pretty much considered the hardest in the world when it comes to getting through the training. Typically, 20 to 30% of the people who try out for SEALs make it through the program.
Oh wow, so it's a huge failure rate.
Exactly.
And then did you make it your first time, or what? How did it?
So when I joined the Navy, I didn't go right there. I actually went to Japan for a year or so to wait to get orders to what we call BUDS, Basic Underwater and Demolition SEAL School. Once I got there,
basically you're planting bombs underwater.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we go there, you class up and you go through the class. The 6 week at the point, 6 week was what we call Hell Week, where you're basically awake for 6 days straight, and you go through running, swimming, all kind of stuff for 6 days straight. My first time through, I actually broke my hand on one of the obstacles, and so I got rolled back into another class. No big deal. I made it through that class, and that was quite a number of years ago. So.
Oh wow! So you broke your hand during the training, but then you still had to continue another form of training, and that you kind of got through.
So
there's a lesson there too, right?
There's a big lesson there. So what could have happened, and what typically happens, is when you hurt yourself during training, if it's pretty bad training, they'll send you back to the Navy, and you can come back in a year or two. But because my hand was in a cast and I didn't want to go back to the Navy, I was doing one-arm push-ups and running and swimming with my cast out of the water,
oh, wow.
Just to show the instructors that I wanted to be there. Actually, I wanted to do it for myself, but I just did not want to go back to the Navy. So when the instructor saw that, they said, you know, one side of your chest is going to be big if you keep doing that. I was like, I don't care. And I just kept working out like crazy. And when you show
with
that...
With one arm?
Yeah, with one arm. Yeah, the other hand was obviously in the cast. So...
I love that. I love that. I mean, that just kind of shows who you are, and also sort of some of the strategies just to be successful, because a regular person would have been like, oh, I'm injured, I'm out.
That's correct, yeah.
And
there's plenty of guys.
So how did you develop that mentality of, even though you were two things, you were in pain and you were disabled, how did you have this mentality to still continue to move forward?
Well, there's a logical component to it. I mean, in this case, I wanted to demonstrate that, you know, I really wanted to be here. I really did not want to go back to the Navy.
But what was that? What was your why? Was it to show? Where did that strength come from?
Because when I want something, there's nothing to stop me from getting it.
Not even not having an arm.
Right, or even death.
Jeez.
Right, and so that concept is what got me through all the training, because the training is extremely hard, and you're in there shivering night after night, and sandy and tired and bloody from chafing and stuff like that, and it's like that for 6 months. And there's any point you can quit, right? And the one thing that kept me going is, you can kill me, but I'm going to complete this mission. And so that's what they want. That's what the instructors want, because then they know they can trust you out in combat.
Wow. And so, how long were you in the SEALs?
So once I finished the training, I went onto a SEAL team, and the same fervor that I went through BUD/S, I told everybody, all my SEAL team members, that I wanted to be a sniper.
That you wanted to be a sniper?
Yes.
Oh wow! Wow.
Yes. So, and typically you didn't go to sniper school for the first 5 years of being in the SEAL team, but because I kept pushing it, I was able to go in the first 2 years, go to sniper school, did some deployments, and then I was a sniper all the way through 2005 when I got out of the Navy. So I was in the Navy for a total of 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and in that time, I'm assuming you just, you traveled, got a wealth of knowledge and experiences from being in that. I mean, for that, it was over a decade.
Absolutely.
And so you come out of that, and how's your headspace?
So it was
you just checked of one of the three things.
Well, first of all, let me tell you this: it was the best job I could ever have. I'm a warrior at heart. I was doing exactly what I was paid to do, exactly what I wanted to do, and I was good at it. Now, somewhere in there, I got married and started having kids. Well, not me, my wife did, but we started having kids, and that became a greater love in my life than actually this job. So and because I was gone from home 10 months out of the year, I decided to go ahead and get out in 2005 when my kids were young, and I wanted to be around for them to grow up. So it was hard to give up that incredible job for my family, because I wanted to be there for them, and it was my choice. Not all team guys make that choice, but that was important for me.
And so you make a sacrifice for your family, and you give up a career that you're passionate about and that you're good at. And what do you do?
So I look at my list. It was time to be an entrepreneur. And I'll say this, along the way, while I was even in the military, I was investing in real estate quite a bit.
On the side?
On the side.
Okay, so
right.
You're deployed, and on the side
You weren't always deployed. Sometimes
Okay.
you were here back. But I would analyze properties when I was overseas. When I come back, I'd look at them and invest in the properties, and
wow.
either rent them out or flip them or whatever else.
That's amazing. And that's in itself, that's a rare thing to do, because I mean, what percentage of the people were doing that while they were?
Not a lot of them, but there was a few.
A lot of guys
us.
are kind of doing that because accommodation, everything's paid for.
Yeah. You got to remember, in the military, you don't make a whole lot of money. You make enough just to live, let's say, a lower middle class life. So if you want to provide for your family, you might want to do some type of side investing or something like that.
Gotcha.
And then so like I said, not a whole lot of guys do that, but it was important to me.
And so how did you have that idea? I mean, where did that come from?
So we've talked about this before, but Robert Kiyosaki's book came out in, I think it was '97, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was when I was in the SEAL teams. And when it came out, I started reading it. And
how did you get exposed to that?
I don't remember. I don't remember where the book came from. I was on a
Was it
point.
floating around?
Yeah, I think it was floating around. One of my teammates had the book, and I started reading it, and immediately I went and bought up my own version. Read the book, understood what it means to invest and kind of work for yourself.
Wow.
And so ever since then, it made a huge impact on my life. As a matter of fact, I was on Robert Kiyosaki's show last year.
Oh, wow.
On his podcast. But and I thanked him. I was like, hey, you changed my life, because that's how I started investing and making my life a little bit better for my family. So
that's fantastic. So it wasn't like you were at ground zero when you got out of the Navy, right? You were doing some investing
Right.
on the side, and that was successful.
Right. So I was doing investing on the side all throughout the early 2000s, which the market was exploding then, so I was doing pretty well. But before I got out, I realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I started designing my business and my business plan before I got out. Literally within the first 30 days of getting out, I scored my first government contract to provide material and training back to the military. Because I was on the inside. I knew what they needed, and I knew what wasn't being provided for them. So I built my business plan around that, and from there, my first business did very well for about 8 or 9 years, and had about 15 employees working for me, about 20, 30 other contractors.
How was that transition between becoming? I mean, I'm sure some of the discipline and the training that you learned, flowed over into the entrepreneurial world.
Yes and no. Okay, risk. I can deal with risk. Getting stuff done, I can get stuff done. But the domain of business is a whole different domain, right? For somebody just to get out and think that they're going to run a business is a big mistake. You've got to have the body of knowledge and the practice to make things happen. It's just like saying, one day I'm going to be a surgeon and go in there and be a surgeon. It doesn't work that way.
So two things. Body of knowledge and the practice, right?
Yeah.
So when you're doing a startup or when you're an entrepreneur for the first time, how long does it take you to, in your opinion, to kind of get those two things?
There is no getting, there is continuous getting,
okay.
Right? There's continuous learning, continuous growth. So in that case, when I got my first contract was I think $80,000 just in my first 30 days. After that, it was like $300,000. So it kept growing. What I realized real quick is I didn't really know what I was doing. So I started hiring coaches and said, hey, what am I doing here? And I was very picky on what coaches to get, who to listen to, what body of knowledge to start getting information from.
So you immediately recognized that there was things you didn't know.
Yes.
And you found experts.
Yes.
That would help you kind of get to the level where you wanted to go.
Yes. And so I was a little hampered by being a Navy SEAL, as I can do everything myself. Well, I can't really, because I can't do accounting, marketing, and everything else that creates a business. Can't do all that once, and you can't do it all good, right? So you have to outsource as much of that as possible.
And then was that a painful lesson? Was it an easy transition for you to?
It was painful. It kept me up at night for sure. And then there was a lot of lessons learned. Like on the accounting side, I thought I could do all the accounting, but I hated numbers, like working the numbers. Now, there's managerial accounting and then there's bookkeeping and accounting, right? The bookkeeping and accounting is pretty straightforward. To me, it's dry, but it's important. Now, what to do with the numbers and how to read those numbers, that's pretty important stuff, and I was pretty comfortable doing that kind of stuff. But the point is, I needed to hire really good help.
In different fields, so
Absolutely.
on the coaching side and on your team to
Yeah.
do specific things.
For example, in marketing and sales, so I had been in this secretive society, the Navy SEALs, where we don't really talk about what we're doing and all that. And so you're not supposed to get out there and market yourself, right? Well, now I need to market my business and get out there and do sales. Well, it felt very uncomfortable for me for about 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Not 4 or 5 months, 4 or 5 years.
Years, yeah.
And that's getting in front of people that don't want to be sold to or don't want to be speaking.
Well, no,
about
it's me getting over the fact that I had to put myself out there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
Wow. And so, that's facing a lot of adversity and a lot of pain for 4 or 5 years consistently.
Yeah.
How did you constantly say to yourself that you've got to get through that? Because this is not, it's not a 6 month don't have an arm thing. This is years of your life, and it's a mind game, right? So, as well. So, how did you do that?
It was a fun challenge. I met it with passion, right? There's a little bit of fear on the backside of what happens if I don't provide for my family, but at the same time this is a lot of fun, right? I'm creating value for somebody. I'm really helping people. I'm doing good stuff. I'm employing people. I'm doing exactly the things I wanted to do, and it's fun, and I'm making some money, right?
So there's a couple of tools that I heard there. The first one is you leverage fear a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You've got the fear of like supporting your family, right? And then you sort of leverage the fun and the passion, right? And the last one was sort of like getting the carrot, right? The going for the financial reward. So it sounds like those three things you kind of combine and you use that in order to kind of keep going through the challenges.
So let me talk about fear and passion here for a second. Both of those are very strong tools, right? If you view them as a tool, right? So for example, fear, if you understand that we all have fear, our bodies and minds are wired that way. That's why we don't walk across the street, right? We look both ways, right? We drive safely because there's a natural fear. When you harness that correctly, just like a fire, it's good stuff, right? It can motivate you, right? When it gets out of control, it's not good. Same thing with passion. If you're so passionate about something that you're not smart about it, if it's uncontrolled, it can ruin your life. So both those things, passion and fear, you really want to balance and control both against each other because they work against each other.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. I just want to extrapolate that a little bit. I think that's quite an amazing takeaway. So you're saying, because a lot of people hear that fear is bad, right? And you should ignore the fear, or like. But you're saying that fear could also be used for good.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And then which you did, and then at the same time you're saying that passion is not always good. That you can be over passionate and it could destroy you, or it could be used in a bad way. Can you give an example of that?
So on the passion side, think about this for a second. Think about, let's say, like for example, I was really passionate about being an entrepreneur at that time. I studied, I learned, and I went to work every single day working on my passion of building a business. Well, if I forget about taking care of myself, my family, my finances, all these other things, that passion can get out of control, right?
When it's focused on one aspect of life.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. I may not, at that point, I wasn't passionate about being in good shape, for example. So I can just let that go, right? So I let one passion explode and I let another one fizzle away. Well, you don't want to do that, right? You want to hold on to the passion and harness it, right? Yoke it, if you will. Yoke it, like just harnessing. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yoking it is just another way of saying harness, right?
Where does that come from? Yoke it.
Actually, comes from the Bible.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
yoke
it. When you put a yoke on an animal, that means you're harnessing that bull or a cow or whatever to
So yoke the passion.
Yeah.
Like hashtag yoke. I mean that is I love that. I've never heard of that saying, yoke the passion.
Yeah. At the same time as you don't want that bull or the horse or whatever just running free, right? You want to harness it.
I think I'm gonna make that your new slogan. Randy Kelley, yoke the passion. Randy, we're running out of time, but I'd love if you could give the audience a couple of takeaways, because you are, I don't like the word balance, but I feel like you've yoked passion in various industries and aspects of life, right? It's not just like you have this balance, you've extrapolated a lot of the juice from having a family to being a businessman to serving your country to being an investor and being in shape, all those things. When people are looking to move forward in their life or achieve their goals, what's one or two takeaways you can give them to help them get to where they want to go faster?
So first of all, it does start with the big picture, right? What is the big picture? What are you going to do with this life? You only have 80 years on this life, 10,000 hours of working, whatever that. What is the big picture? And you look backwards, you look back on your life, and what would I feel good about spending that life on, right? Start there, and that's why I wrote those 3 things down when I was younger. By the way, I never did the last one.
The CIA.
No, I never did
He's
that.
just saying that it probably wasn't the CIA.
I wish, but no, I never did. I'm a little too old for that now, but I do love being an entrepreneur. But start with the big pictures, and then, which is the strategy, then build down into the tactics of what it means to, what it takes to get all that stuff done. And tactics are very It's not a wishy-washy type of thing. It's like, if I'm going to get through buds, I need to be in good shape. I need to have the right mindset. If I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I need to know accounting. I need to know sales. I need to know all the things that make a business, right? When to, and how to make decisions, for example. There's a whole science about how to make good decisions, which study how to make good decisions, people. Really, get a good book. There's some really good books out there. There's Decision Making 101, right? Learn how to make decisions, because the more you can do it cognitively, okay, the less you can do it emotionally. Now, what you do is you make a decision based on your on the facts of the situation, the best probability that something's going to happen. Then you put your emotions behind it, right? That's when your passion really is harnessed into producing something that you want in your life.
I love that. So two things right there. So one is the bigger picture, and then focusing on the tactics, the specifics, the details, right, and understanding what that takes. And then the second one is the decision-making process of understanding making good decisions, and then you aligning your passion with that decision-making.
Yeah.
And then that's amazing. You're also an author, and you co-authored this book, Driven, which is fantastic. I've read it. We spoke about it before. Tell the people in the internet, because you have a unique view of life. You talk about the wolf pack, you talk about the farmers, you talk about the driven and the people that are not so driven. So share some of the takeaways of the book.
All right, so the fundamental principle is that many of us have genetic coding that allows us to explore and get out there and live life to kind of an extreme fullness. Now, it's only about 10-15% of the population. Most people are what we call farmers, and those people are happy living their life, growing a little bit at a time. The rest of us, we can't live like that way. We need to get out there and explore and kind of mess things up to make it much, much better. Almost all athletes, entrepreneurs, military folks, warriors, those kinds of people are all genetically driven, what we call genetically driven. And I'm not going to get into the science of each of those genetic traits, but suffice to say, it's only about 10-15% of the population. So if that's the basis, what does it mean to be driven? What does it look like? How do we harness that? How does it show up in our life? And that's what the book is primarily about. Many times being driven can lead to addictions and negative consequences, but if people like Elon Musk have learned how to harness it, how to create and grow things, and not accept the status quo. In my case, I'm an explorer. I got to get out there and explore the world and all aspects of it and ask the big questions.
And so are you saying that only 15% of the world are sort of conditioned or preconditioned to be driven?
Preconditioned, that's correct.
And so what about the other 80%? Can they be driven?
Probably not. Now, science argues, are we born this way or are we made this way? Science nowadays understands that we're both. Sometimes we're born, we have these genetic traits, and sometimes the environment we grow up in either exacerbates or
encourages it.
Right,
encourages or
so it can either lessen or make it greater, right? So in that case, we are both born and made to be driven, right? So in this case, those 85% of the people, they're happy working their W-2 jobs. Great. Let them do it. We need those kinds of people to give us stability in life. We, as in the entrepreneurs and the driven kind of people.
And so, and those people on the driven side, I mean, is the book guided towards talking about that 15%, or is it talking about the 85% on how they can?
It's primarily about the 15% because a lot of what you read, a lot of the normal things you'll see today, especially on, just like if you're watching news, it's geared towards the what we call the farmers, right? So schools are set up for farmers, right? There's not a whole lot of support structure for these types of driven people. And so that's what the book is about, and how to deal with it, how not to let it overcome your life, and how to manage that kind of thing. And it takes a lot of work to manage being driven.
Fantastic. Wow. It's a lot of takeaways on various aspects of life. What I love about Randy is that you've got all this exposure on different types of people that you've come across in your world, and this is just one example of how you've been able to kind of share the knowledge. Randy, thanks so much for taking the time, for being on. We could talk to you all day. This is amazing. Would love to have you back. Thanks so much for being on the show.
My pleasure. My
Thanks,
pleasure.